Hello everybody and welcome to this workshop. My name is Chris Reyna and today we are here for Cruinniú, which is a national day for children, and lots of events are happening around the country and this is one of them. And so I've been asked to do this workshop for you on behalf of DLR Libraries, Dún Laoghaire Rathdown Libraries. So the library has asked me to come along and to come up with some different ideas for workshops, and we've been doing those kind of throughout the week. So maybe just to explain a little bit about myself, what we do, I have a company called Maker Meet, and we're makers and we make different things. So generally those things are for schools and educational institutions, things like that. And we do kind of project-based STEAM workshops. And STEAM is just an acronym for science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. So today we are going to do and include a couple of those things. So we will certainly include the A for art, and we will actually include the E for the engineering. Now there won't be an awful lot of T for technology or M for maths involved in it, and there might be a little bit of science in how it's put together and what we use to do the things. But by and large, we are going to make some magnetic movable monsters, or movable magnetic monsters. So you should have received a maker kit in the post, and there'll be a number of things in that maker kit. So certainly the very first one would be this sheet. So this is your movable magnetic monster sheet, in which all of the body parts here are for the monster that we're about to make. And in there as well, there should be an envelope with a few things in there. So there should be some of these. So I'll just show you those. Those are what are called brass fasteners. Those are brass fasteners, and there are going to be what we're going to use to put together our monster to make all the body parts movable and posable. So you can pose them in whatever way you like, in different shapes and things like that. Also in there, there should be some googly eyes. So there should be some of these. Those are googly eyes, certainly, and they're quite fun. So they will be the eyes for your monster. And also, you should have received something, just a couple of black bits like this, and these are magnetic. You may have tested these already. So these will be the magnet that will glue onto the back of our monster, and then you can put it on your fridge and things like that. Okay, so Um, in order for us to do the workshop, if you want to kind of get those things out, so the other things that you might need is just something to color with. So we're going to color our monsters first. And also probably a pair of scissors as well would be very useful, because we'll have to cut out the body parts for the monster. And then maybe something like a pencil. So just something like this. So just a pencil, just maybe a sharp point on the pencil so that you can just poke a hole in the paper itself. Now, I actually have kind of a tool to do that. So I have a sharp pointy tool that I'm going to use to do that myself. But just a pen or a pencil will work for you. That would be fine, because we just have to poke a couple of holes in the paper, and only small holes. So oh yes, the very last thing, sorry, is just you probably will need some glue as well, just to glue down the eyes and just to glue the magnetic strip on the back. So I have kind of your standard Pritt stick glue, just like that, and that will work for you. But if you had kind of a glue that was like that with a little nozzle on the end, it will just make it a little bit easier for you, just because you can control the amount of glue that comes out. And this glue tends to dry a little bit better and adhere. It sticks things together a little bit better than a Pritt stick glue. Sometimes things, I'm sure you know, you've used Pritt stick before. Sometimes when you put stuff together with Pritt stick, it comes apart very easily. And I'm thinking, here I'm thinking of the eyes. The eyes, I know, tend to fall off sometimes if you just put a bit of glue on the back of them, but that other glue will work a little bit better. So if you want to take a moment and just gather up all of your materials, I have done that. I have a desk here in front of me, and I have gathered all of my materials together. So what I'm going to do during the course of the workshop is I'm going to show you my desk. So I have over my head, just here, I have a camera over my head, so you'll be able to see directly down at my desk here in front of me. So as we work on the project, just putting it together, probably you won't see me during that time, but you will see my hands, and my hands will be doing the different things, but they'll be down on the desk here in front of me. So just to start, I might just jump over to that camera so that you can actually see where we're going to go. Now here, there's monsters already. Look at these monsters already. These are ridiculous monsters. Let's take these monsters and put them away. Huh. You have to be very careful with monsters sometimes, because monsters always sneak around and do silly things. So they do. Monsters always do very, very silly things. So the first thing that you're going to want is probably this sheet, really. So your Movable Magnetic Monsters sheet. And you will see that there's bodies, and so we have two bodies there, two different shaped monster bodies. We have arms, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different arms, and we have some legs, so we have 1, 2 legs here, and these are kind of tentacle legs, and we have some legs here, and these are big monster feet legs. And then kind of down at the bottom, we have some antennae. So these are antennae, bits that are going to stick up out of the monsters like big long ears. And there's some hair for the monster as well, too. There's some hair for the monster, just in case you want your monster to have some hair. So just before we start, the very first thing we're going to do is we'll color in these monsters. So we'll spend a little bit of time doing that, and then we'll cut them out. So I think it's worth noting as well that you're watching all of this live on YouTube. And if you wish to ask me any questions or have any comments, or just tell me maybe I'm going too slow or too fast or you can't see or anything like that, just to the right of your YouTube window is a little chat function, and I will be checking that from time to time to see if there's any chats in there. And you're more than welcome to throw a chat in there to ask me anything like that if you want. So the instructions for doing what we're about to do are all kind of right here, but we'll walk through those anyway. And the very first one here, as you can see, is to color each of the monster body parts. So what I suggest in this case is I have given you two different monsters. So for the course of this project, just what we're doing right now, I think we'll just do one monster, and then you can do the other monster, because then you're going to know how to do it when we finish this. You can do the other monster yourself, and you have enough pieces to make all of both the monsters and things like that. But for you and I working together at the moment, we'll just make the one monster, I think. So I'm going to pull in here. I have some colored pencils, so I'm going to pull those in there, and I'm going to choose one of my bodies, and then I'm going to choose a set of my arms, I'm going to choose a set of legs, some antenna or hair, and then lastly, I'm going to choose one of these mouths to use as well to put on my monster. So you can choose whatever you like. There are no rules at all. To be honest, you don't even have to use this sheet if you don't want to. You could get rid of it altogether, get a plain piece of paper and draw your own monsters, because I'm sure that you're very good at drawing your own monsters. But for me, I'm not so great at drawing things, so I'm going to use this sheet that has been made up, and I'm going to start to color some of these in first. So you can see there's a little bit of color on each of the body parts and the monsters and the arms and the legs and everything like that. And that's only just to show you where things are. But the colors are light enough that you should be able to color over them. So I'm going to start. I think I'm going to start here, and let's see. Which body part will I use? Well, I think I'm going to use this one. So I'm going to use that body part. And again, you can use any one you want. You can actually mix up your arms and your legs and the antenna and hair. It really doesn't make any difference. However you want to do this is the right way. There is no right way. It's whatever you would like to do. So I'm just going to start by coloring some of this in here. And I'm going to show you a little trick in just a moment. So I'm going to use colored pencils to color, as opposed to markers and things like that. Again, you can use anything you want if you want to use markers or colored pencils. But for me, I find colored pencils tend to give a little bit more kind of texture to whatever you're coloring. Markers don't give quite as much texture, I think, and that often looks good, especially when you're going to color some monsters, because monsters need lots of texture. So I'm just going to start by doing some coloring in here. I'm going to go around like that, and I'm going to come around here like this. And I'm just going to do the same on the other side, and do some down here like that. Now, I wonder if anybody has noticed what I've done there. So obviously I've put some color onto my monster right here, okay? And what I might do is I might just actually zoom in here a little bit further so you can see exactly what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is, if you see the tip of my pencil right here, okay, just the tip of the pencil. So a really good thing to do when using colored pencils is to turn your pencil so that you don't have to sharpen it quite as often. So I'll show you what I mean. So if I just do some coloring here, and I'm just going to make nice small bits of coloring there, just like this. And I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'm just going to turn the pencil here. So watch. So I just turn that a little bit. And what that does is, when you turn it, it actually kind of sharpens and continues to sharpen the point of your pencil. Now I'm just going to turn it again. See how I'm just rolling that pencil? in my hands. I'm just rolling it back and forth. And just keep turning it little by little. And I'm going to show you something else here, which is, so my paper is just straight up and down like this, okay? But the good thing to do is when you're coloring, so I'm right-handed, so I'm going to use my right hand to color with. But my left hand, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the paper a little bit. And I'm going to keep my hand exactly where it is, because sometimes it's really hard to kind of turn your hand around and move it to where you want to color. But it's easier because we're used to coloring and drawing and writing like this, keeping our hand just like that. And it's easier to turn the paper than it is to turn your hand. And that is true with everything. So that is also true with cutting, and you'll see that in a moment when we go to cut out the monsters. But it's also true with cutting, and it's true with sewing and lots of other things. So if I zoom back out here a little bit, so you can see overall what I'm going to color. And again, you do not in any way need to color the way I'm coloring. You should use your own imagination, and you should use your own ideas. Don't copy what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is just what I want to do. It's not necessarily what you think is the right thing to do. So I'm just going to put a bit of color up there like that, and I think I might bring this almost down there, but not quite. I'm going to turn my paper again there, you see? And we'll just come around like that. So now I'm going to use another color. So I'm going to use this green color, because this is a nice bright lime green for me. And I'm just going to add in some of that green color, because I want my monster to be all kinds of colors, because I quite like color. And I think it's a good idea just to add in loads of color. Now you, of course, may want to make your monster all one color, and that also is absolutely fine. There is no reason why you shouldn't make your monster whatever colors you want, whether it's all one color, or it's two colors, or it's a whole rainbow of colors. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to come down here a little bit. And again, I'm just going to turn my pencil to try and keep the point just a little bit sharpened. And all it does is it just means you don't have to sharpen your pencil as much. And if you don't have to sharpen your pencil as much, then that just means, pardon me, that you don't wear it down quite as quickly, and your pencils will last a little bit longer. So I'm just going to put a little bit more color in there. What color will we use? I think we might go for a dark green now. I have a bit of a dark green there. So I'm just going to do some more here. You'll notice something else I'm doing here is I'm not holding it down here by the tip like that. I'm actually holding it much further back here, and I'm almost resting my hand down on the paper. And that just lets me make very gentle, very light strokes. So that way, and you can see I'm actually going in a circle there, because the bottom of this monster's belly seems to be a little bit round. And we'll go up there, and that just means I can do different shadings for my monster as well. So, and I just want to go up there a little bit, just like that. And make a turn, and just come up here, that, and up here like that when I push down a little bit harder. And that'll do nicely. I think that has done my monster's body very good. I'm very happy with that now for the moment. So I'm now going to pick some arms for my monster. So let's see. Would I do the kind of clawed ones, or would I do the curvy ones? I think we'll go for the clawed ones. They're kind of fun. Now, what color? I'm going to go, in fact, you know what? I'm going to go with a completely different color for my arms. I'm going to use an orange color. Okay. So I'm just going to use an orange color there. And in fact, what I'm going to do is put on my glasses, will make it an awful lot easier. So I want orange fingers. Can you imagine if you had orange fingers? That would be very silly, wouldn't they? And in fact, it could be very dangerous if you had orange fingers, because if you did, people might think your fingers were made of oranges and they might try to nibble on your fingers. And that would be terrible. If someone came along and thought that you had fingers made from oranges and to nibble at them. Now, so I've got my fingers just about done there. And you can see what I've done is I've left just a little bit of space towards the back of the arm. And I'm going to put another color in there, again, just because I like lots of colors. I think using lots of colors is fun. So what other color would we use? Maybe a bit of a reddish color. Let's see, just a bit of a reddish color in there then as well. Nice and gentle. Fade into that. Now, you'll notice here that you'll see in the arms that there's a little dot there and there and there and here, and then on the legs there's a dot there and there, and over here on the antennae there's dots, and in the hair there's some dots as well. Okay, so those dots are going to be important. That's where we're going to punch our holes for the brass fasteners that I showed you earlier, that you should have in an envelope. Okay, the brass fasteners. So they're going to be the things that we're going to use to hold it all together. Okay, now those are my arms done. So I think I'm going to move on to my legs. I'm going to use these big feet because I think they're fun. I like those big feet. I'm going to start, what do we have here? That's a nice purple color. I think purple legs to go with my orange arms and my green and blue body. That is such a color combination. I think it's amazing. So let's just color that in there. There we go. And I'm not going to quite go all the way into my feet. I'm going to use another color for the feet, but I'm going to have purple legs. I think that's the way to do it. I'm going to have purple legs, orange arms, and a green and blue body. So, if nothing else, this monster is going to look like it was run over by a truck full of Skittles. And all the colors of Skittles, or M&Ms if you prefer M&Ms. Sometimes I prefer one or the other. I like both Skittles and M&Ms, let's be honest. They're both good. Now, all right, let's see. What colors will we do with our feet? Do you know what? I think for my feet, I think I'm going to come back to my green. I like that lime green color. Okay, so I'm going to make the bottom of my feet green to go with the kind of purple color there. And that's going to be good. Don't forget to turn your pencil if you can. If you're using colored pencils, of course. If you're using a marker, you don't need to do that. It won't matter because the marker will come out the same no matter how you do it. Okay, so the marker would come out the same. It's only with colored pencils and crayons. Crayons would also benefit from being turned. It will keep a sharper point on your crayon or your colored pencil. Now, that's looking good. I'm liking that a lot. Okay, so I'm liking that a lot. So I have my body done. I have my 2 arms done, and I have 2 legs done. So now I kind of need to decide down here, am I going to have antennae or am I going to use hair? I don't know. I think I'm going to go with the antennae, actually. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the antennae. And I'm actually going to go back to my purple. That kind of light purple color, the one that I used for my legs here. And I'm going to do my antennae. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do kind of the reverse of my purple and green for my antennae. So down here, I'm going to do purple, and up at the top of my antenna, I'm going to make this the top of my antenna. This, I'll make that green. So my monster is going to be matching. I wonder, wouldn't it be good to have a monster that could change color? That would be an interesting project to consider. That might be my next project. That will try and make a monster that could actually change color. It would depend on what materials we might use for that to do something like that. Okay. Here we go. So back to my light lime green again, and I'm going to use that just here for the top of my antenna, and this is going to be brilliant. I'm going to enjoy this now. This is going to be quite funny. Now let's see. And again, I'm just turning the paper, keeping my hand exactly where it is, but just turning the paper. Much, much easier thing to do. Just turn the paper. Don't worry about moving your hand into position. Keep your hand where it is and turn the paper and just color there. And whilst turning, don't forget to turn your colored pencil or crayon like so. And by the way, it's worth noting that you don't have to limit yourself either, of course, to just colored pencils. You can use, and I have over here, in fact, let's see now. Yep. So I actually have some markers as well. So I could use some of these markers actually, and I think we might do that. I will do that, but I'm going to come to that in just a moment. I'm going to pick a mouth first. So I have two mouths here. So this one is kind of sticking his tongue out, and this one's a big smiley one. I'm feeling smiley today for me, so I think we might do a smiley mouth. How are we going to do a smiley mouth? Let's see. What colors will we use? I'm going to use a red here, I think. So this is a darker red than the other one I have. I'm just going to do this because my monster isn't going to have teeth necessarily. I think I'm going to have a vegetarian monster. My monster won't eat people, which is very good. I don't think we want a monster that's going to eat us as soon as we make it. That would not be a very nice thing for the monster to do. As soon as we finish coloring our monster, it comes along and eats us, and that wouldn't be nice. So I have a yellow. Now, I don't know how much that yellow is really going to show up, but let's give it a try. Just throw it in there. Oh, yeah, that's good, actually. That yellow is showing up pretty well, so that's all right. Put a bit of yellow in there, a bit of yellow and red. That's good. So we have a mouth there now. All right. So now, let's see. I'm going to go back to my markers here, and I'm going to take this dark purple. So there's a dark purple here, and I'm actually, so what I'm going to do with this is very carefully, I'm just going to, because markers work very differently to colored pencils, so you have to be a little bit more precise sometimes with these. So actually what I'm going to do, oh, I have an idea. I'm going to put a little tip just in the claws of the monster, just like that. So he's going to have, my monster is going to have purple legs and purple claws, just like that. They look quite dark, but that's all right. I don't mind because they are still purple, so that's good. Some purple claws on this one. Very nice. Purple claws here as well. Very good. And just here too, nice and gently. Put in some purple claws. I like that. And I'm going to do the same up here with my antennae. So just at the ends of my antennae, I'm going to do just some highlights. So these are kind of just highlights. That's good. Now, I hope that all of you are getting on very well and enjoying your coloring of a monster. It's not every day that one gets to color a monster. I think that's good. I'm going to put a dot there, just again for a little bit of highlights, that's all. All right, so that's my purple marker. Now, I have a yellow marker here. So let's have a look at that and see. I might see, can I brighten my mouth? I don't know how much that's going to make a difference. Not at all, really, is that making a difference. My mouth is still quite yellow, but that's all right. That's fine. And it's worth just trying. Another one there. Oh, that's almost orangey. Yeah, that's not bad, but I'll do that around the edges rather than in the yellowy bit. That's fine. And very last bit, I'm going to take, I have a nice color here. It's kind of a very light blue-green color. So this is a nice blue-green color. So I'm going to go back to my body. And the last thing I'm going to do coloring-wise before we start to cut out is I'm just going to put a little bit of, just a tiniest bit of marks here around my body. Just for silliness, really, not for any other reason. Because this is the fun thing about monsters, is they can be anything at all that we want them to be. A really nice thing to do is, and we won't do it at the moment, but for yourself, a really nice thing that you could do is you could, after you've made your monster, you could write a story about your monster. You could just write a story about your monster and just tell us something. And then you could throw that story in. You could ask your parents or someone to perhaps email that story in. That would be a nice thing to do. Email the story to us. We'd like to see those. And as you can see, I've lost track of my time here, and I've just decided to put a few little dots on my monster's fingers. His orange fingers are going to have just a couple of little red dots. All right. That, I believe, is probably enough coloring. So I'm going to move all my coloring things out of the way, and I'm going to start to do some cutting. Okay, we'll start to do some cutting. So I need scissors. So I have some scissors here. So if you're going to cut, that's fine, but you just need to be careful, okay, as always, with scissors, depending what kind of scissors you have, because all scissors are sharp. So you just need to be a little bit careful. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is, and actually let me just zoom back out here, a little bit like that, be a little bit better. And so the first thing is, we're going to cut these out, the pieces that I've done, and we'll leave the other ones behind. Okay, so we'll cut those out and leave the other ones behind. So that will make it much easier for us to do. So I'm not going to be careful here at all. Well, I'm going to be careful enough not to cut through any of the body parts. But I'm just going to cut very carefully around here, just like that. That's all, right through the word bodies. Now I have the body here. So now I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to cut out both of my arms together. I'm not going to be too worried about preciseness, not yet. In fact, actually, I'm going to continue around here and just cut out my legs as well. So if you've chosen a different body part, just cut them out very broadly at the moment. You don't need to worry too much about how we're going to cut them out. Not yet, certainly, anyway. All right. We cut around there. And I'm going to cut over there, just like that. Now, okay, so those are all the body parts for another whole monster that we can do later. And even when you do this monster and color that one later, you can start to swap the body parts around to see what goes better with whatever monster that you like. And that could be a bit of fun too. Now, let's get rid of that. So now I have my body parts here. So I'm going to cut them all out. I'm going to take my arms first, and I'm just going to put those right up there. I'm going to take my mouth, cut that off. I'll put my mouth over here. I've got the legs there, and I've got my antennae and hair there. So just before we cut them out, I think it's probably best if you get, once again, if you get a pencil, okay, and in this case, a pencil with a nice sharp point. Okay, so you can see that pencil has a fairly sharp point, and wherever there's one of these little holes, I'll bring that up here a little bit better, you can see. So wherever there's one of those little holes, okay, or there's not a hole yet, but wherever there's one of those little dots, you just want to use your pencil, twist it. Don't shove it all the way through. That would be very harsh. Just nice and gently twist it until it pokes through the other side, and then just push it in a little bit. You don't have to push the pencil all the way through. We only want to make a small little hole. And you can do that for all of the others. Now, as I said, I'm actually going to I have a special tool for making holes in things. This is literally this tool's only job. But I have to be very careful with this tool, because I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but this point on this is extremely sharp. It's like a needle. It's so sharp, so you have to be very careful with this tool. But you can just use a pencil or something else sharp as well. So I can just poke right through that. That's just what I want. And there. And we'll come to my legs. Let's make a little hole here for my legs. Now you have to make sure that when you're poking through your arm, that your finger or your hand isn't behind it and you poke through into your hand. That would hurt, and you certainly do not want to do that. Okay, so I just poke through like that. We've got a little holes there. Now let's go to my arms. Let's make a little hole here. There we go. And it doesn't have to be precisely in the spot in the dot there. It's okay. Won't really matter too much. This is the thing about monsters. There are no monsters that are exactly the same at all. Now, that's all right. Let's put that aside for a moment. And I'm going to get my scissors back out. And I'm going to start to cut these out. Now, I'm just going to zoom in there again, a little bit closer so you can see. Now, like I said before, like the coloring, okay, so when you were coloring with something, okay, and I said you hold your hand here, okay, and you move the paper, but you don't move the pencil, or you don't move your hand too much, okay, you just move the paper and you color, move the paper and color some more. The same thing is true when you're cutting. So you hold your scissors and you put the paper into the scissors and you open them up and you start to squeeze the scissors tight, but you move the paper. You don't want to move your hand with the scissors. You just want to move the paper, and sometimes you move both together. So you just cut nice and gently like this, and then you move the paper because you're changing direction. You can cut around and move the paper, and you go nice and slowly because you just want to be careful when you're cutting things out, again because scissors are sharp, but also because if you go too fast you will chop through a body part, and chopping through body parts can be really icky. You don't, especially monster body parts. You can have bits of a monster all over the place, and you don't really want that. And here, even if we want to cut out this bit, we can just snip this off. So we'll come to the end and cut. And we'll come back to that bit over here in a moment. And now we can turn this hand around, and I can start at a different direction because this monster's fingernails are right there. And again, it's easier to move the paper than it is to move the scissors. And we turn and turn again, and turn again. And we come to the end, and a big snip, just like that. And if we want to do a little trim right here on that fingernail, we can trim that off as well too. And that's fine. So now there we have one arm. We put that just here off to one side, and we'll work on the other arm. And obviously all of you can work away at the same time to cut out your body parts, and you may want to ask a family member or someone to just give you a hand, no pun intended, to cut out these body parts. And just take your time, and then after they're all cut out, we will assemble our monster. We will assemble our monster. So now, once again, I'm going to cut along there, move my paper, cut up here, turn my paper, turn around here, and there we go. And just here, we're going to cut in a little bit, nice and carefully, because cutting around fingers is dangerous. Not only the monster's fingers, but your own fingers. So just be careful in your cutting. So even a big pair of scissors like this can cut small things out if you just do it gently. There we go. So now I have two arms right there. So I have two arms cut out. So now I think we'll move on to the antennae. And these are going to be a little bit easier because they're nice and long. So we can just make big, long cuts. Again, we don't want to snip them in half. Or maybe you do want to snip them in half. Maybe you don't want your monster's antennae to be quite so long. Well, go ahead and cut off the top. This is not a situation where you score points. This is a situation where you are making a monster. And when making monsters, you have free will to make whatever kind of monster you want. Your monster could be funny. Your monster could be scary. Your monster could be silly. Oops. Your monster could be happy, could be sad, could be any kind of a monster that you want. Unfortunately, you have a couple of monsters to try, and once you do these, well, you can start to make your own monsters. You don't need my designs. You can color your own monsters, cut them out, and I'll tell you about the brass fasteners afterwards, and you can get brass fasteners, the ones that we looked at, if you remember, these guys here. So those are the brass fasteners that you can get. Okay, so that's what they are. That's what they look like. You should have some there. And most stationery shops will carry those. So you can find those in most stationery shops, and they're not terribly expensive. So you can pick up a good few of those to make movable items with. So again, of course, you don't have to make monsters. You could make robots. You could make people. You could make paper dolls. You could make all kinds of things. When I was very young, I had quite a selection of things that I used to make. I used to make them from cardboard, from paper, from all different kinds of things. So we used to make even movable ships and cars and things like that. So now I'll just snip along here. Turn nice and carefully there. There we go. And there we go. Okay. And you can see I'm not being terribly careful when I'm cutting around. Now I have two antennae and two arms. So I'm going to do the very small thing now. I'm going to go to the mouth. The mouth will be very quick and easy to cut out though. Very quick and easy. And the mouth isn't going to move, although it could, but I think we'll just glue on the mouth for the moment. So there we go, and I have my mouth cut out. Now, there we are. So I would wonder if you knew in school yesterday that you would be making body parts for a monster today. That's kind of an icky thing. although it's not too icky because it's only paper. So that's quite good. Because if we were making a real monster like Frankenstein or something like that, well, we'd probably need different body parts. And that would be very, very disgusting and icky. We don't want real body parts at all. That would not be nice. No. So I'm going to cut around my monster's claws just in here. And again, as always, nice and gently and carefully. Don't go fast. There is no reason to get it done quickly. You do not get points for getting it done quickly. You don't get any kudos at all. In fact, you get more thanks for doing it a little bit slowly. Okay, and we got there. We snip around this monster's foot quite carefully, because my advice to you would be not to cut into a monster's foot. Monsters, in my experience, do not like having their feet cut into. Now, we have a monster's leg and foot, so I am left with this monster's leg and foot, which I'm going to cut around. There we go. And I'm going to show you this actually. So if I was cutting here, okay, and I accidentally cut a little bit further, like that, all the way into the monster's leg, that's okay. It really is. You don't need to worry about that. And even if you cut all the way through the leg, well, you can just sellotape it back. It's okay. You wouldn't need to worry about cutting into the monster's leg. Now, when the monster is put together, if you cut into the monster's leg, well, that might be a different story. So the monster might get angry, and the movable magnetic monster might decide to eat you. Now, it's probably unlikely that the monster will eat you, firstly because the monster is only made of paper, but secondly, because I rather suspect the monster that you are going to be making is going to be a very nice monster, and not the sort of monster that just goes around eating people all the time. Monsters that eat people all the time will do two things. They will very quickly find they will run out of people to eat, and number two, people will not like them. And we all want to be liked a little bit, I think, even monsters. So, now I have 2 legs, I have a mouth, I have 2 antennae, I have 2 arms, and the only thing that's left for me to cut out now is the monster's body, and this should be very easy to cut out, I think. Very easy indeed, because it's nice round shapes. And in this case, you can see I'm moving the paper, but I'm also moving my scissors just a little bit, because round shapes are usually easier to move around like this. Now you can see what's happening here. My finger is coming into the scissors, and we don't want that. So we want to be careful and go back to holding the paper, because that's a much better way to do this. There we go. And by the way, just as a final thing, you can see I'm actually, when I'm cutting around my monsters and all my monster body parts, I made the decision to leave a little bit of white around the edges rather than cut into the line. And that was kind of purposely done because I don't mind the white around the edges, but you can cut directly on the black line. It doesn't really matter at all. Okay, so now we're nearly there. So I am going to zoom back out again. There we go. And we won't need the scissors now anymore, that we are done cutting. We are done cutting. Okay, so now we're at the very final stages. We're almost there. So now, before we do anything else, you have to decide how you want all the bits to go on your monster. So do you want your monster's body to go this way? Or do you want it to go that way? Or maybe you want your monster's body to go that way. It really does not matter. So it can go any way you want. I think I'm going to have my monster's body go that way. And I know that my monster's legs are going to go about there. I think my monster's arms, yeah, something about there, something like that. And my monster's antennae, yeah, are going to go, move my mouth out of the way, and it's going to go about there, something like that, pretty close like that. So we'll move the mouth out of the way for the moment. We'll move the antennae out of the way. We'll move the arms out of the way, and let's just concentrate on the legs. And we're going to put those together now. And actually, do you know what we'll do? Sorry, my apologies. Just before we do that, we will, okay, get our magnetic strips here, okay? So if you have something metal near you, that would be very useful because I want you to test this strip first. So one of the sides of this is very magnetic and the other side isn't. And really, it's next to impossible to tell which side is which. It's very hard to tell. The best thing I can tell you is the side that is a little bit shinier is the side that's more magnetic. So I'll hold this up here, but I honestly don't know if you'll be able to tell really. So this side here, for me, is not very magnetic, but this side is. And I suspect, let's see if I, so that bit is shiny. And if I turn that over, let's see. Well, that bit looks shiny as well too, to be entirely honest. It's very hard to tell on camera which bit. So the best thing that you can do is if you have something magnetic, try to stick it to that. And the side that it sticks best for is the side that you want to leave out. So I have mine here. So I know that this side for me is the side that's magnetic. So I'm going to turn my monster over. I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to glue it onto here. So I'll need my glue just here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here. So that fits on there quite well, but you might need to trim it just a little bit first because your arms or your antennae or your legs might not go on. So just a pair of scissors, and I think actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut this in half. And these magnetic sheets are very easy to cut in half. So I think I'm going to put one up there, and I might put one down, and I might actually, I might trim this even just a little bit more, and you can trim yours as well. So yes, I think I'll do that. And that. So that is what I think will work best for me. So I'm going to use my glue. I'm going to make sure I have my shiny bit right way. Yep. For me, that's right. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here. I don't need loads of glue for these because the glue will squish out everywhere, which is okay. And we'll drop that on there. And I'm going to push down, and yeah, there's the glue squashing out everywhere. That's quite all right. That's what I have tissues for. So it's all right to be a little bit messy, provided you clean up afterwards, of course. Let's put a little bit of glue on there for me. Put a little bit less this time. And take some of that glue and push that on there like that. And I have a tissue here. And so I have a little bit of glue sticking out, as you can see there. It's squished out. So I just have a bit of a tissue, and I'm going to wipe away that glue because we don't want that to stick to our table surface, because we want to be able to put this onto something else so that it magnetically sticks to your refrigerator or perhaps your microwave or something like that. Something magnetic, something metal, actually. So these magnetic strips are going to stick to something metal. So I push down really hard on that. Let's see. Yep, it's not really sticking anymore. Not too much anyway. Maybe a little bit, but not too bad. And as I say, we'll wipe some of the glue off that. So now, that's not too bad. So I have those bits stuck to the back, and that's okay. So now I'm going to take my tool, my little pointy poking tool, but again, you can take your pencil. Okay, you can take your pencil, whatever you've used to poke holes in things, and just start to line up. I'm going to line up my leg first, and I'm going to put that there. I have a check in the back, and there's no magnetic strip there, so I'm just going to carefully poke a hole through the hole that I've already made in the leg, and I'm going to poke that all the way through to the monster on the other side, the monster's body on the other side. Okay, and now comes the tricky bit. So I'm going to take one of my brass fasteners, okay, and the way they work is like this. That's a bit too high, sorry, no, there we go. So I'll put all those down to make it easier. I'll have to show you, much easier. So the way the brass fasteners work is like this. So you are going to poke this through both holes, and you will see that the brass fastener has one of its legs is a little tiny bit longer than the other. So you can grab that one and pull it out like so, and then grab the other leg and pull it out like so, and that will lock your two pieces of paper into place. Okay, that will lock it into place. So I'm going to do that now on my monster. I have to put the two legs of my brass fastener back together. I'm going to take my leg, put it through that hole, just like that. I'm going to take my monster's body, and I'm going to put it through the hole I made in my monster's body, just like that. And there it is. Now, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to grab these two legs of the brass fastener and just open them out. And that will lock those two pieces of paper together. And there you go. And now I have a monster with a leg. And if I want to move it, all I have to do is turn it like that. And I can move my monster's leg. So let's continue with the other leg, and we're nearly done now. We are nearly done. So I'm going to take my pointy tool, and I'm going to poke a hole through here and into the other side. And once again, don't get too excited coming to the end of this. I don't want you to poke holes in your hands or anything like that. That would be a very bad thing to do. I don't want any screaming or anything like that. That would be dangerous. So just be careful. Put my brass fastener through. I'm going to open it out. So now my monster has two movable legs. So I'm going to come up and do my arms. I'll come up here. I'll hold that. I'm going to take my tool. I'm going to poke that through. And once again, I'm going to be very careful that I don't poke either my finger or through the magnetic strip on the back. I'm going to turn my hand like that. I take my tool out. I take a brass fastener, and I put it through the arm and then through the body, just like so. And it doesn't matter how you do it. So I have my arm pointed down at the moment. That's very silly because it moves. So all I have to do is put it up like that, and it moves. So we'll do the other side now, and we're nearly there. Nearly, almost done. And we'll poke a hole through the arm, which we have done already, and then through the other side here, the body of my monster, and make sure again we don't hit our fingers, our hands, or the magnetic strips. So I have a hole poked in there, and we'll take a brass fastener, and we can put it through the arm like that, and then we can put it through the body like that. And we open out the two sides of the brass fastener like so. And now we have a monster with two arms that move and two legs that move. Okay, now let's move on to the antennae. I made antennae here for my monster, as I like antennae. I think that's silly. Antennae look good on monsters, I think they do. I think antennae look very good on monsters. So we need another brass fastener. I put it through both and we just open it out like so. And let's put the very last antenna on, and we are very nearly done. I've said that a few times, but in this case we only have a mouth and eyes to put on, and then we have a monster. Now let's put a brass fastener through both of those. Open it out at the back. And I know I'm conscious I'm not really showing you what I'm doing, but I'll show you the back of my monster now. So that's the back of my monster. That's what it looks like. So we can see the magnetic strips here, and the glue has dried very nicely there. And we have all our brass fasteners, which are quite long, but that's okay because you can just twist them in. You don't need to see them from the front, but even if you see them from the front, that can be a bit of fun too, actually. And now we need a mouth. So I'm going to put just the tiniest bits of glue on the mouth. Don't need much at all. And I'm going to put my mouth down here about there. That's it. And then the very, very last things that we need are the silly googly eyes. So you really just need, so here's my googly eye. So there's my movable googly eye. You just need the tiniest drop of glue on the back of that. Just a tiny drop. And I'm going to stick one there. That looks good. And push down for a moment just to fix the glue in place. And we need a drop of glue for the other one. And this is going to be the end of our magnetic movable monster. Now, there we go, and hold it down just for a second, just to fix the glue in place. And there we go. Now, rub my hands together because I have a little bit of glue on my hands. That's quite all right. So now I have a magnetic, that's the magnetic bit, movable, and there's the arms and my antenna and my legs, my movable bits, monster. And that is my monster. So I would very much like to see any kinds of pictures that you have of your monsters. We'd love to see those. Please feel free to put them up on social media, or if you don't want to do that, you could email them to us. And I'm also quite sure that Cruinniú and DLR Libraries, Dún Laoghaire Rathdown Libraries, would love to see some pictures as well too, because everybody's monsters are going to be very different. So they're all going to be really different. And this is my monster, and this monster is very silly. So this brings us to the end of the workshop. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope you had fun making, pardon me, a movable magnetic monster. Let me jump back here for a moment. So that brings us kind of to the end of the workshop. And I'd just like to thank you all very much. And I hope you made some very interesting monsters, and you should have another monster to make again, either later today or in the next couple of moments, whenever you like. And you can swap around body parts of your monster just by pulling together the two sides of any of your brass fasteners at the back and taking a body part out and putting it on the other monster. So you can make swappable body parts for your monster. So As I say, that brings us to the end of our workshop, and thank you very much for coming along and joining us on making things. We will be doing lots more workshops. In fact, if you want to look on our YouTube channel, we have some more workshops up there and various things as well. Some things we can't unfortunately do online because they're just too complicated, and we would need to do those in person. And we hope very much that we can start to come and do things with all of you in person very soon, after COVID finishes and the lockdown stops. So thank you very much once more. And we always finish off by just kind of a little catchphrase that we have of things that we would like you to do. So, and those things are always to engage, to explore, and always try to enjoy what you're doing. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll talk to you very soon. All the best. Bye bye.